Throughout history, mankind has craved to learn what the future might bring. Down through time, people have sought assurances that success and well-being would be bestowed upon them. In light of this, many look to individuals that possessed a mystical insight for direction. Those individuals that wielded such prowess held a prominent standing in society and were revered for their abilities. Such was the status of Balaam. Balaam was a non-Israelite from the city of Pethor in ancient Mesopotamia and modern-day Turkey. Identified in the Bible as Balaam, son of Beor, Balaam was a diviner with a questionable moral character who was also used by God. Balaam was a renowned and recognized figure in his region. He was known for having extraordinary powers, and his services were highly sought after. In looking to make a profit, Balaam later extended his services to the Moabites and the neighboring Midianites as a consultant. Prevented by God from casting a curse on Israel, he advised these two nations on an alternative approach. The Moabite and Midianite women were instructed to lure the Israelites into sexual immorality and idolatry. This agenda formulated by Balaam was meant to instigate a rift between God and his people by covertly manipulating the Israelites to take on a corrupt lifestyle. Balaam's initiative was widespread and destructive. His techniques of subversion would go on to be consistently warned against throughout the writings of the Bible. Proof of Balaam's enduring significance was discovered in 1967 during an excavation in Jordan, located roughly 25 miles north of where the Israelites were encamped on the plains of Moab. The excavation revealed what was once a multi-room sanctuary with an extensive inscription written on its plastered walls in both black and red ink for emphasis. The inscription, known as the Deir Allah inscription, dates back to 800 BC, during the time when Judah and Israel were separate nations. The Deir Allah inscription identifies an individual named Balaam, the son of Beor, as a seer and a communicator with deities. The inscription also details the prophecies of Balaam. The unprecedented discovery of the Deir Allah inscription shows not only that Balaam was a real person, but it also gives support to his tactics being real as well. Revelation chapter 2 verse 14 says, "But I have a few complaints against you." Christ says to that church, to those that are reading this in the body of Christ, "You tolerate some among you whose teaching is like that of Balaam, who showed Balak how to trip up the people of Israel," in reference to how Balaam did try to draw the Israelites into sin. Christ continues, "He taught them to sin by eating food offered to idols and by committing sexual sin." And we see this seductive means of intertwining the ways of the world, seductive teachings and immoral living, and sexual immorality, and the injection of worship of other gods, or worship beyond what God has laid out and how he is to be approached and how he is to be worshiped. This is the way of Balaam, and this is what Christ is admonishing the readers to stay away from and not become a part of. And Balaam's way is seductive. Balaam's way is kind of stealth, in the sense that it isn't presented to you in a manner that says, hey, this is the wrong way, join this, become a part of it, implement it. No, instead, quite the opposite. It may be presented as this is a right way, this is an improved way to live, this is a new and better way to approach God and approach God in worship. This is how you should live, and this is how you should obey God. That's the trick. But that's what we are to be aware of. Many may feel that they are cognizant and watchful of this means of a different approach in worshiping God creeping into how they worship, how they approach God, how they monitor their moral character. But you come to see that it's not simply just whether an outlook differs from the ideology that you might identify with, or the ideology of a group that you might identify with, and using that to determine whether you're standing on good ground, whether you are obeying God as you should. If things fall into the ideology of the group that you identify with and that you feel comfortable with and that you deem to be moral and upright and upstanding and obeying God, then you're fine. But rather, the standard that we need to use is the standard of the Bible, as opposed to ideology of a particular group. And in that sense, what happens is it isn't the outlook, a perception of, oh, I'm progressive, I'm a moderate, I'm a conservative, and so long as I stay within the confines of how the group that I identify thinks, then I'm okay. And no, that's not the way to approach this. We are to use the Bible as the standard, and not some of these other movements that many perceive were these movements to be more embraced, then the world would be a better place. But all have fallen short of the glory of God, and these movements in and of themselves can't do it. Mankind can't bring about utopia in a society or within one's own self. Salvation, redemption comes from obeying God. And so we have to recognize God as opposed to trying to be righteous on our own. And therefore, using and following the Bible as our standard in going forward and recognizing God. This is the manner that we are to use to abstain and avoid and not fall into the entrapment of the way of Balaam.